Today, Monday, May 1st, 2023, public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome. I am Susan Klaus-Smith. I am the chair of the commission. I'm also a licensed architect. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation, and your project should be presented in the following order: the site plan, the elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. The staff will then present their staff report, and we will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as your presentation. When coming to the microphone, please do state and spell your name clearly, whether you are here to and whether or not you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following the public comment period, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal, and then the public hearing will be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the city ordinance, chapter 27 of the city zoning code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review or HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing tonight. Please note that the ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owners and or agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do silence your phones. And I will ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
My name is John Prokop, and I practice architecture.
My name is Dan Myers. I'm a registered architect.
I'm Brent Taylor. I'm a general contractor.
My name is Stephen Sutton. I am also a registered architect. I also hold the architectural historian chair for this commission.
And with us tonight, we have Dennis Fernandez, Elaine Lund, Alexis Guzman, and Dana Crosby Collier, our city attorney for this evening. And then we do have a reading of the minutes from last month's meetings on April 3rd and April 5th, 2023. Are there any comments for either of those minutes? Seeing none, we will go ahead and ask for a motion to enter both meeting minutes into the record.
I move that the meeting minutes for the Architectural Review Commission public hearing for Monday, April 23rd, 2023.
April 3rd.
April 3rd, 2023, and Wednesday, April 5th, 2023, be accepted as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, please state aye and indicate so by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to announcements. Mr. Fernandez.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Welcome to this evening's public hearing, to you, our applicants, and the public. Just briefly, I wanted to announce that we will be holding a hearing on Wednesday, May the 3rd, to handle the remainder of our cases. Other than that, I'll go ahead and move on to conflicts of interest and ex parte communication and ask our legal counsel to handle that for us.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dana Crosby Collier from the City Attorney's Office. The first question that we have regarding conflict of interest is whether any member has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda this evening.
I do not.
No.
I do not.
Thank you. Has any member engaged in ex parte communication regarding any item on the agenda this evening?
I have
None.
not.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to continuations. Originally, we did not have continuations, but we received a request late this afternoon. That is going to be for the first two cases that were on your agenda. That is ARC 22-229 and ARC 23-224. They're actually the same property owner, but I would request that you make two separate motions for this. And both cases are being continued to June the 7th public hearing at 5:30 p.m.
May I have a motion, please, for the first one?
Move to grant a continuance in case ARC 22-229 for the property located at 210 East Columbus Drive to the June 2nd, 2023 public hearing at 5:30 p.m. Oh, 7th, excuse me, the June 7th public hearing, 2023 at 6 p.m. 5:30.
5:30.
5:30 p.m.
At 5:30, thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor, please state aye and raise your hands indicating so. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then a motion for the second.
I'll move that ARC 23-224 for the property located at 2702 North Morgan Street be moved to the June 7th ARC meeting at 5:30.
Second.
All in favor, please state aye indicate so by raising your hand.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on, we are ready for the swear-in. Anyone in the public who's going to be presenting or giving testimony this evening, if you would please stand and raise your right hand for the swear-in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And with that, we are ready for our first case, which is ARC 23-158, and Ms. Lund will provide the photo essay for that.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation staff. The first case, ARC 23-158, is located at 4904 North Sewanee Avenue in the Seminole Heights Historic District. The site is currently a vacant parcel. In 2019, the building that was on the site caught fire, and there was an authorization by the department director and by code enforcement to demolish the contributing structure. The site has since been vacant, and today we are hearing a request for new construction on the site of a primary structure with an accessory dwelling unit. With that, I'll move into the photo presentation. In the Seminole Heights Historic District, this property is shown here at the south end of the district. The red line indicates the local historic district boundary, and the blue line indicates the National Historic District boundary. This is the 1920s Sanborn map of the area. You can see that at that time, the property was vacant. Then you can also see the proximity to the Hillsborough High School. And note that this is located on Sewanee Avenue with Osborne shown as the street to the south and Violet is shown as the street to the north. Again, this is the aerial showing the location, again, of 4904 North Sewanee Avenue on the west side of Sewanee with Osborne Avenue directly to the south. And the line of the historic district shown there in blue. This is a view of the subject site. We're looking west toward it from Sewanee Avenue. This is the property directly to the north, also vacant. And the property directly to the south. Looking across the street, this is the view of the portion of the property owned and used by Hillsborough High School. This is looking north along Sewanee Avenue. If you look closely at the left side of the picture, the house in blue is the next nearest structure to the north. And then the view looking south along Sewanee Avenue. Behind this site, there is an alley. This is the view looking north along the alley. And the view looking south toward Osborne. And that concludes the photo presentation. So at this time, I'd like the applicant to step forward and present the request.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenn Otley, Glenottley. I'm the contractor / designer. And
my name is Sam Manna, M-A-N-N-A, and I'm the property owner and developer.
okay, so first I'll start with the site plan. This is Sewanee Avenue. Okay. And here we have our driveway. Our driveway, main structure, and auxiliary structure. We were requested to line this building together with the driveway on this side of the property. However, there's a 36-inch oak tree here and some other trees at the neighbor's property. So we don't think it's wise that when we get a building, we might have some restrictions as far as putting the building all the way across there. So that's the reason why we kind of kept it on this side of the building, of that side of the property. This here represents our fence garage that hides the air conditioning unit, so it cannot be seen from the street. We are with our impervious area, we are at 43% or something like that. Yes, about 43%. So we are under the 50% rule. This is our east elevation, which is the front of the property. And we have sidings, brick column all the way down. As you can see, historic windows. This is the north elevation. We were asked to have 2-foot eaves because that's the common the common building back then, but with today's building code, we are kind of requested to shorten eaves to avoid lift of hurricane lift on roofs. So most jurisdiction ask us to, in design, to make the eaves at least 1 foot or 16 inches. We don't have any soffits. We keep the historic exposed rafters. So that's the look there. This is the west elevation, which is the looking from the back side of the home, as well as the south elevation of the main structure. This is the ADU, which we west and south elevation. Try to make it look almost exactly as the main structure. This is the east and north elevations. Use this for my section. This is my section, and I use this because I can zoom into stuff. So we have a stem wall structure, and we use a hardy board, cement board lap siding. It's going to be framed with fiberglass shingles, and we plan to stucco the stem wall. Our finished floor is 24 inches high, and the front porch is 20 inches. There's a 4-inch lift from the front porch to the back porch. This is our roofing material, siding, windows. This is the column finish for our columns. On the porch ceiling, we use groove ply. We have that wood finish. And this is our exterior doors and hardware. We intend to use hardy trim for all the trim material. This is an example of what the trim could look like. The windows with hardy. This here is what we're gonna put on the foundation, but we have the stem wall, so we don't have that block finish. And this is some of the exterior lights that something like this we plan to use for the exterior lights. Well, I guess I've got, let me see if I think that's it. Got anything to say, Mr. Sir? Anything I missed?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so I think that's it. Let me just use my 3 minutes to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. All right. Just to mention, our caps are 3 inches for the pairs. I think that's the only thing. Our floor is it's 20 inches high, so we don't, by code, we don't require railings. So, and yes, our main rafter here at the edges is 8 inches. Most of our trim, all of our trim is 5 inches for windows and doors. and we have our sales. Yes, and I think that's it. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Certainly. We'll move on to the staff report. Ms. Lund?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioners, staff initially found this project to be inconsistent with a number of conditions. The information that we initially reviewed did not provide enough detail for our review and determination. The drawings were developed further by the applicant, and they are consistent with the design guidelines. However, there were a number of conditions, and I would suggest that you review some of the details just to make sure that everything is overall consistent with the intent of the design guidelines for new construction in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn. We'll now open the hearing to public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to come forward the board and speak either for or against the project, you may do so at this time. Not seeing anyone, we'll go ahead and we will begin asking questions, starting on my right this evening. Commissioner Sutton, any questions?
This proposed dwelling is in an area of Seminole Heights that is abundant with the traditional bungalow-type house. Many of them very modest in size and in scale.
Sir, could you speak up, please? I can't hardly hear you.
Excuse me. Do you have a list of examples of where you received your design input for this dwelling? Because it seems to be out of place in this general area.
Are you talking in the Seminole Heights Historic District, or are you
Yes.
talking about within that street and block?
Both.
Well, I can assure you, sir, from the street and block, it is not outside of what the intent of the ARC is. I've done extensive review of the block, and there are many non-conforming structures all moving north from Osborne to Violet on both sides of the street. Within the district itself, I think that the intent on my part and my agent and contractor is to fulfill what the ARC is looking to have in that area, so.
But you have no examples to bring.
I don't have any to present to you, no, sir.
We had a guide, what we call it?
We had, yeah, the ARC guidelines, I believe, that we used as a template to follow, and that's how we developed our plan and our elevations.
Can we pull up your site plan for a moment, please? Two items reflecting some site plan detail. Am I correct in reading that there is a fence to be installed that would be separating the primary dwelling from the accessory dwelling area, unit?
That's what we have shown at this time, yes, sir.
So there, you're basically dividing the site at this point in time. Just wanted to make sure that's exactly what I was looking at.
Yes, sir.
The other item I have with respecting to your pavements, both your parking pad, your driving strips, as well as your sidewalks. Do you have a scoring pattern to show us to indicate a compatibility with like items in the neighborhood?
Scoring pattern, markings into the concrete itself?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that I understand completely.
Because
No, sir, we
what I'm
don't.
looking at is monolithic concrete at this point in time.
That is correct, sir. Just poured concrete ribbon driveway.
And that's what's in the neighborhood.
There are many houses along the street, sir, that do not have a driveway at all.
pass on to my fellow commissioners.
You referenced the elevation on the front as to 20 inches to the porch and 24 inches to the actual residence. Did you pull a average up and down the street to be able to give us some sort of evidence to
Yes.
that?
Mr. Sam actually went and measured.
Yes, at 4902, which is the house that was adjacent to the south that you saw in the photo essay. That's what we used as a reference. The next house closest going north would be about 100 and some feet away.
So what
Across
were-
the street is a retention pond for Hillsborough High School parking lot. And the next resident on that side of the street is going to be 70 some odd feet.
So what were the elevations of those homes that you did?
I did not take that
I
measure.
got it. You sent it to me.
Okay,
You talking about you didn't take the one way
Right.
down, but you.
That's
you
what the
took
one next
close
to-
yes.
yeah.
That's, he wanted to know.
Oh,
what that-
I misunderstood.
It was 21, and the one way on the other side was like between 60, I think it was 18 or something like that. Let me make sure.
Okay, so my next question will be in reference to the site plan again. Where are we in reference to the street setback line compared to these other homes on the street?
That's you again. You went and measured the buildings.
well, you're talking about the setback
Setbacks,
itself?
Yes, sir, from the
It
street.
should be drawn in right there
It's
on the
tw-
plan,
yeah,
on
No.
the site plan.
I know what the
It's
city
right
site
there.
plan, or site setback, that's not what I'm
what the
asking.
rest
What
of
I'm
the
trying to find out is the existing homes that are currently there, regardless of how far or close they are on the street. So I'm just trying to get an idea, is that number, or what is that number in reference to what you're proposing here on your plan?
It's 20, it's almost the same thing by some inches off, because Mr. Sam again
We went out there and
and actually measured the neighbors, the one way down the street and the one close to it. So they were like 20, maybe 20.
And what is yours?
20,
Okay.
yeah.
On the eave widths of the home, I understand as a contractor your rationale there, but we are in a historic district, and typically we would see a wider eave on these older historic homes. So my question is relating to that, and would you entertain a wider eave tonight?
Yes, we would. Only if the code, I know in some jurisdiction, the code, I'll have to double check that, but if that's, it's not Mr. Sam, I spoke to Mr. Sam about that, and he's okay with that, with having it 2 feet.
You showed us a picture of the window. Can you bring that back up? And/or a wall detail, if you have that, showing the cross-section of a window install.
This picture?
So is that the style window you're proposing?
We picked from the manual that we had picked that window. Let me see if I can pull it up. Windows. Yes, but that's the window that we plan to install.
So do you plan to have any divided light, or will it be a 1/1?
One.
It will be a 1/1.
Okay, let me see. We picked this one here,
Okay.
but it won't be an issue if we have to, but we had chosen this.
All right, so do
We're
you-
open to putting some dividing light designation in the window.
My interpretation was that we couldn't put we had to use only those with the wood dividers and not just
we want to see a divided light. So there are manufacturers that provide that in other alternative materials.
Yes, so
That-
the question was, could we use those if we have to? If
Okay.
that's okay with you, we gladly pick it.
Okay. Now, do you have a wall detail showing the install of the window itself? I saw, I mean, obviously you showed us the solid wall, but I just want to see in reference how you're looking to install this window. Are you planning to do it flush like we do new constructions typically in 2023? Or have you put some thought into recessing these windows back into the wall cavity?
I didn't plan to use this. I don't actually have a wall section, a full wall section, but this is just what I had. Basically.
So, remind me in your detail, what was the nominal thickness of the wall that you're proposing? Was it a 4-inch or,
4-inch.
okay. Normally, we're gonna wanna see these windows recessed to create a shadow line in a 4-inch wall. That may be difficult, which is why I was looking for that. Usually we'll see a recess, again, with a little wider sill.
So we suggested that we use 6-inch exterior walls.
A 6-inch wall section would definitely give you more room to maneuver. On the columns, you show brick. Is that a true brick or is it a thin brick?
It's we showed a veneer brick. That's what we have there.
Okay, so are you planning to use the true corners,
Yes.
or are you planning to just butt them up in the corner and,
No, we plan
Okay.
to buy the two corners and
okay.
button up wouldn't give you the look that we're looking for.
What is the material proposed for the front steps?
Concrete,
Okay.
painted,
And I think you mentioned this, but I'm gonna ask the size of the trim around the windows.
5 inches.
So just a typical 6-inch board.
We plan to use Hardy, same board.
It will be a 6-inch trim board, which
Yes.
is 5.5 inches.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the porch decking material, is that gonna be concrete as well?
Concrete painted, yes.
Okay. Did you have any sample doors to show us tonight?
Yes, and we took that from the same historic manual that we had. Where are my doors?
So a standard one light,
Yeah,
no blinds or anything in the middle? And that's a question.
oh, I'm looking at, I think we were restricted, so. Doors, okay, doors should be here. Windows. Going the wrong way. This was the options that we had to choose from, so we picked this.
Okay. Did you show us a fence material?
Actually, no.
No.
What are you proposing for that? And what are the heights?
5 feet wood fence. Yes.
So a wood stockade type, dog ear,
Dog ears.
okay. I think that's all I have for now.
Mr. Myers?
Could you show us once again Sorry, could you show us once again the light fixture that you're going to use? There we go. If you move that up, yeah. And would you be willing to coordinate the finish and the style of the doorknobs and hardware on the building with this exterior light here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I must say that I myself was once rewarded for doing a project with a historic home. I have a nice big certificate on my wall. And we did a 1925 building, which my friend had to do like a bid to get it. And one of the things that they said was helpful is that I told them that my grandmother's house in Trinidad was exactly like that. So we got that house back to 1925, down to the light switches. So I'm kind of familiar with some of the stuff. That's why I picked that light. But I kind of oversight the door handle, so I know what you're looking for.
Okay, thank you
Right.
very much.
Okay.
No further questions, thanks.
Did you mention in your presentation what the windows are made out of?
Vinyl.
So they're vinyl windows?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna do the plan is to do the trim where it kind of hides the edges on the exterior. So we get that look more or less like a wood look. That's why I was trying to avoid using the artificial windows and just use a plain.
Okay. Actually, all of my other questions were already asked by the fellow commissioners.
Okay, good.
Hello. So I'm actually going to go back over from the beginning. Can we go back to your site plan, please? And if we could zoom in, please. Okay. So I want to start from the beginning of your presentation about the site. There was mention of a 36-inch tree that's on the property just to the south in the west corner.
That's these here.
Correct. It seemed to be that in your presentation, there was an assumption that there would be an issue with the root system and/or the drip line. Have you actually had this reviewed with either a landscape architect or the city arborist to look at how close you can get to that tree at this point?
No, I didn't. I just used my judgment based on past experience. So, but that can be done if we have to.
The reason why I'm asking that is that oftentimes you will find that you can actually be a little bit closer and working with an arborist and a landscape architect who's certified in that area, and come up with other materials for that drive condition that you have placed alongside the building so that you can actually physically move the building and the drive closer to the root system. I would assume that you're still in design mode, right? You haven't gone as far as ready to go to the permitting office at this time, correct?
That is correct.
So, if possible, it would be probably better in terms of, not just in terms of the historic precedent, but in terms of the use of this property for whether it's your personal use or whomever you sell the property to. giving as much land back to the property owner that's actually usable for them, being able to slide that building southward, and then having that more historic alignment obviously is something that we as a board would look favorably upon and would hope that we could get in projects that we review, especially new projects. So would you be amenable in looking at that condition and then revising the placement of the structure and that parking feature if that works out?
Well, ma'am, certainly, we want to please this committee or that's reviewing this, but it was our preference to have it located where it's currently situated. However, if your approval is contingent upon trying to determine if it's feasible to move it south some, certainly we will look at that.
It would be much more consistent with the historic conditions that you would normally see on a block in the district.
Very
So,
well.
The other question I have is, there was a note here about the walkway. It looks like you connected the front walkway all the way to the existing sidewalk, okay. And then the ribbons as well. There is a grid area just to the west of your porte cochere for the primary structure. What is that?
Yeah.
That's, at one time when we were kind of close to the 50% pervious, and we use a impervious block system because of the historic, we were advised to put a pad behind the carport. So if we had made it concrete, it would have taken us way above what the requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So we made something impervious. So it's basically a kind of block, like what you call it?
So grid block, I
Grid
guess.
block. Yeah. So we can have
Yeah,
stormwater.
water, water permeable.
Yeah,
through a
understood.
portion of it, yeah.
So since you've stated that, do you have imagery of the intended material system that you want to use there?
We don't at this time because honestly, we were still deciding exactly how it's gonna look.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair. So I understand most of where the fencing is gonna land. Where does it return on the south side of the primary structure, or does it?
Oh,
Sorry, repeat that question, ma'am?
So I can follow the fence line from the north side to the east of the AC unit, and I can follow it along the north perimeter, and I can follow it between the primary and the accessory structure, and then I can follow it all the way down to the south lot line or property line. But I don't see it returning back to the primary structure on the south side of the primary, does it? Is it intended to?
it doesn't show there,
or-
but the intent will be to go to the column, the column that is west, the west column.
Can you point at that with
Oh.
your finger or your pen?
Right here.
Right there.
So is it your intent to put some sort of gate then across the drive between the concrete and the paver system that you intend on installing?
No,
So the fence would just return, but there would be no gate to actually close off the yard,
No.
secure the yard, okay. All right. And then all of the concrete decks at the front and the rear porch are to be concrete painted, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the stairs as well. And then, can we look at your elevations, please? I'd like to look at the south elevation first for primary and accessory structure if they're on the same sheet. And we can zoom out.
I'll kind of,
We can zoom out a little bit so you
Oh,
can put them
yes.
together.
yeah, sorry.
That's all good.
Okay, so south.
And you can just put it on top there, perfect. Yep. So the rear porch of the primary structure, is that a column on the west side?
That's here?
Is that a column there?
Yep, yes.
And what is the intent of that?
That's just to support the,
No, but how is it built out? What is it made
it
of?
will be a 4-inch post
Okay,
and, with, built out with the same trim material that we're gonna use for the trim on the house. We actually had one of these, but we were told to make it simple,
yeah.
so.
Well, that's more consistent with what you would see, right? You put all your money at the front where everybody can see it, and then you kind of reduce it as you go. Okay, and that's the same for the little, the accessory structure has a column as well, or is that just a corner board that I'm seeing?
That's just a
next to
corner
the
board.
door?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a corner board. Yeah, that's a corner board.
Okay. And then, I want to talk about the comment about the 2-foot joist spacing. Is that truly, and this is for Elaine or for Ron?
No,
I mean,
not for the
Dennis.
joist, the eave you're referring to.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
want to ask staff, because in the presentation by owner and agent, it was a discussion point that seemed to talk about the spacing of the joists, but in the comment from staff report, it is the overhangs that are talked about. Is
That's
it-
what we were
That we're
referring to.
the overhang, the eave, we say eave, but overhang.
Okay, because I was hearing joist spacing,
No.
so that, okay, I just want to make sure that I understood exactly what we're talking about. Okay. So I do agree that 2-foot overhangs are more appropriate for the primary. Are you showing 2-foot at the accessory unit as well for the overhang then?
Not at this time, but on recommendation
No,
from,
so what is the overhang that you were showing for the accessory unit?
1 foot.
1 foot for the accessory? And 2 foot at the primary currently?
No, we actually have 1 foot, that what Mr.
You have 1 foot at the primary
Yeah, Mr.
still?
Brent was suggesting that we go to change it to 2 feet.
Yes, well,
We
I
had
would
some
agree.
concern about what the city codes would be with respect to wind mitigation and wind concern for,
understood,
Yes, ma'am.
understood. Been there, done that. I
but we're
totally get it.
certainly open to making that adjustment.
Okay. I do want to talk about the siding. Is the siding hardy as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and what is the profile for that one?
I think we had what is this? 8 inches, 8 inches.
8-inch profile, okay. Thank you. Do you want to ask? Go ahead.
Well, just to clarify, so you're using an 8-inch hardy, so it'll actually be a 7-inch exposed lap.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Nominal.
The vent, I noticed there was a vent detail, maybe it's on the front elevation.
Yes, it is.
Is that a working vent, or is that just want to match the historic precedent?
I would rather I will construct, and during construction, I would rather have a working vent.
You do want a working vent?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Okay. Do you have a detail for that yet in your drawing set?
For the vent,
For the vent, how it's going to be constructed and installed in the wall?
we'll match it to the windows.
Try to keep that same.
Same, yeah,
Okay.
exactly, look like the windows, so it doesn't
Okay.
look different or anything like that.
No, wait, look at that. Is there an east elevation for the accessory structure now in your drawing set?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you in fact remove the carport from the accessory structure?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure we hit everything in the report. Certainly made
We
that
are
of it.
here to answer your questions.
But I have a quick question.
Sure.
Did we have to, because one of the reasons for the carport was to attain a certain distance from the alleyway, which eventually I did, but I was still told to move the carport.
So we would not typically see carports in the
Okay.
historic district. Whether or not it's a contributing structure or not, it's not something that we would typically see in a design. We have porte cocheres, which are like a fancy carport, but they're always at the primary structure, never with the secondary structure. And we do not put carports typically into the historic districts.
Just wanted to know for future projects. So thanks.
You don't have any garage doors, right? I didn't
No.
see any. Okay, all right. Alrighty. That is it for me. Any other questions for the applicant, either the owner or the agent? Speak now for hold.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask just because some of the drawings, it looks like there may be a slight line there. Is there any intent to have trim of any sort underneath the windowsill? Is underneath the windowsill? Some of the drawings look like there might be, and that's the reason I'm asking.
Yes.
So you will have your intent is to have a piece of trim there?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicants? Okay. You do have 5 minutes for rebuttal. Oh, yes.
I might just add.
Absolutely.
So as Elaine had mentioned, we weren't able to really study these new drawings very long because they did come to us after the exhibit due date in response to the staff report. And I just wanted to kind of bring up a couple issues that I noticed during the presentation. On the site plan, there's a lot of discussion about site planning is very important in the historic district because it really is the character of the district. And so these questions about setback and the orientation of different buildings is very important. So on the point that the staff made in the staff report pertaining to the alignment of the accessory structure with the porte cochere, I just want to emphasize that that's, I believe, a critical factor in the site planning and new construction. And if the building is not in the accessory dwelling unit is not able to be moved to the south side, then perhaps the entire primary structure could be flipped so that the porte cochere would then be on the north side and more in alignment with the building. And this is generally the effect that you see with the porte cochere, where the ribbons run through the porte cochere and lead to the accessory structure. That being said, I think that the fence, whether it's 5 foot or 6 foot, that essentially divides the site is somewhat problematic visually. Although zoning might allow for an accessory dwelling unit, the district strives to maintain the patterns of the district. So having that visual barrier that divides the site, I think is something that staff has not normally seen very often and doesn't support. So you can have discussion on that. Related to the overhangs, we see 2 foot minimum overhangs on most of the projects for principal structures. I think going to accessory structures, 18 inches for a 1-story structure is sufficient, but it certainly can be a character defining feature. Related to the windows, vinyl windows have been approved, the right type of vinyl window. So the staff would need to see what type or what the manufacturer of the vinyl window is. And then having that properly installed, whether it's a 1/1 or if it has the mullions, those would need to be simulated divided light so that you have the actual mullion on the exterior of the glass and the interior of the glass, not a grill between the glass where it's sandwiched between the glass. And that is a critical detail to the success of window installation. Also on the porch, there had been some changes in the porch design since the original submission, but normally we would have a section through the porch that would kind of show the detailing, particularly of the porch and the lip around the edge of the porch with the concrete. So that detailing, I think, is critical for, the concrete porch to be successful. The fenestration pattern, obviously, is very important. I would, discuss the fenestration pattern particularly on the primary structure. And then the garage originally came in with, we were using the term carport. Carports aren't allowed in the district. Porte-cocheres are allowed. So carport on the accessory structure was something that we had said was inconsistent. Transportation had an issue of a technical issue with it. So that was, I think, the impetus of that being removed. But the structure remains elevated in the rear now. You're stepping up into it, which is very atypical of an accessory structure. And although, once again, the use for accessory dwelling unit is allowed, the attributes of the building should be accessory structure. So I would take a look. There's a finished foundation around it right now with a stem wall, and that's typically not the vocabulary of an accessory structure. So if you have any questions, I think Elaine and I will try to handle those, but otherwise that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Dennis. So you do have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes for rebuttal. That means that you can enter anything into the record or respond to anything that was said if you want to come back to the microphone. And I do need to know if you're not going to use your time, you need to state it in the microphone.
Okay, I just have one comment. As mentioned, with the front porch with the wraparound, I didn't show a detail, but that the intent was to have that lip go all the way, so we don't just have a concrete floor and just come like that. We intended to put a lip there. As far as the accessory building, being a stem wall, I assume that it had to be exactly like the main building, so that's not an issue for us if we have to drop it on the ground. As a matter of fact, it's costs less.
Well, we have to meet a certain elevation, though, for it to
Well,
be a living area, right?
18 inches above the street, but not above the street. So what happened is that on the recommendation for the historic, we were told that we had to be elevated from the front. So we assumed that the ADU was the same. So that adjustment we can make. Not for the house, that's for the ADU. Yeah. So, and that's it, just to let you know that we intended to put that lip on the front of the porch. And that's all my time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we will go ahead and discuss the case, starting with Mr. Sutton, if anything.
I can understand the nature of a modest dwelling coming into this vacant site. However, I'm having a difficulty right now rectifying what we're seeing on the drawings, as limited as they are in their detailing, with respect to the context that this building is being proposed for, and the precedence that the contributing structures have within the immediate vicinity, not the non-contributing, but the contributing structures, and what may be borrowed or not borrowed or used or not used from that mix of different things going on. My concern is that what I'm looking at right now, in a very schematic way, does not seem to be a good fit with how I see Seminole Heights, especially the area in and around of Hillsborough High. And I'm wondering if this project really is ready for prime time with that issue, its context, as well as the general detailing for the entire building itself. That for the primary dwelling as well as for the accessory dwelling as well.
Any other thoughts about the presentation, the project that's before us?
I think they made a relatively valid attempt to resolve all the issues that staff had given them. There's just an awful lot of remaining things. The pervious block, what it looks like, the height of the accessory structure off the ground, the scoring of the driveway, the eave depth, the fence material details, what it looks like. And then the major one is basically is the decision to move the accessory structure to the north rather than keep it in line with the porte cochere to the south without enough, I think, investigation into the viability of that and whether it can be done and what the issues are with that tree and with those roots. And it just was abandoned and not really studied and just said, well, we prefer to move it north, where historically we prefer to keep it to the south. Or, as Dennis said, mirror the entire structure. If you're going to force the accessory structure to go to the north, mirror the whole building so that the porte cochere is to the north, so that they are in alignment.
Agreed.
I think there's just an awful lot of,
And those are big design considerations that have not received the consideration they're due.
yeah, I just don't think there's been enough due diligence, especially from the tree and the root and the drip edge and what that does, or what it doesn't do, or how to deal with it. I think a simple flipping of the house would.
The easy solution, just from a design standpoint, without having to get into all the root systems and the drip line, is to flip the plan
Right.
for the primary.
Right.
But I do agree. I think there's a big picture
It's come a long way.
resolution that needs
Yeah.
to happen in the site planning first.
Yeah.
And then there are details that are lacking, and we've heard a lot about intent, but there isn't a lot of visuals to support it. So that's the danger here. We certainly have certain items that we can say staff can work with and coordinate some final decisions on, but when it comes to seeing how certain things are installed and then whether or not the depth of the eaves are appropriate, and there is enough room in the language for building code to have deeper overhangs. I mean, I've put 4-foot and 5-foot overhangs in, so in Florida.
Right, with the proper ties.
Right, I mean, there are ways to do it, and understood there's some money issues there, but I agree that there are some big factors here that need to be resolved to have a certain level of comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think.
And I do think there's a valiant effort
Right,
as a
they've
first
come a long way, right,
effort.
from apparently what they originally submitted to the staff.
And on top of those, I mean, we didn't really get into a lot of the fenestration location and different, but I mean, I feel like the windows could have a little better layout on some of the elevations. There may be some opportunity for some additional. The fence going through the backyard, that's very odd.
It is problematic.
It sounds like it's come a long way from what was, or has come a long way from the original set of documents that was submitted, but, there are a list of things, and sometimes there are a long list that we give to staff, but I feel like there may be some items here that need more than just staff approval. They actually need some more research done.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen some actual window samples, door samples, not just pulled from
Or
the...
cut sheets, or real cut sheets.
Right, or not just pulled from the guideline book. Because unfortunately, once it's approved on an intent, we run into issues in the future of, well, our intent was, and what argument does anyone have? There is
Right,
not one.
you know.
So, the other thing I would say is on something like this, I lean on the knowledge of our historian here, and he said multiple times now, you know, has some concerns with it actually really looking and being a part of this community, this street, this particular area of Seminole Heights. And this is an entryway to this historic district, you know, right off of, from that main corridor where the school lies. So, you know, these are multiple things that for me come into play of, if this vacant lot was deeper into the historic district, we would probably have more examples to go by right next door. But because there isn't, and we are on that border, we somewhat need to see something go there that truly is in line with what's already in the district itself, in this section of the district, not just Seminole Heights as a whole. I would like to see some definitive answers, you know, on elevations, on
Yeah, I think
distance from the street.
what would also be helpful is to be presented with much more documentation of the adjacent structures, what the adjacent structures look like, what their setbacks are.
What the rhythm of the street is.
Yeah.
I can do that. I have pictures.
I'm sorry, sir, you can't respond. We're having a discussion, so I'm sorry.
So, yeah, for me, it may, in fact, be right in line with all of the above, but without that evidence in front of me to look at, it's very difficult
Yeah.
to.
We typically would want to see more documentation of that and what the site plan looks like in adjacent houses and what they look like, so that we can be sure that it fits.
It's a very simple design or modest design
Yeah, which I don't have a problem
in a
with.
modest,
I don't have a problem with that either.
in a modest neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the
So,
modesty of the design, or the
there's-
scale, or the massing at all.
There's
I
not
think
a lot that needs to happen here.
There's site plan issues that Dennis brought up that I think are very, that's probably the number one concern.
I agree.
And I think that needs to be resolved before we can say
I agree, that's the number one.
yay or nay.
I mean, even if imagery was presented today of the block, and they showed us the elevation, and they showed us some of the character defining features that they were attracted to, it is a site planning issue, and
Right.
it
And the
needs to
fact
be
that the
resolved.
drawings came in so late and staff hasn't had a chance to review them and give the applicant feedback before coming in front of us, then I think that needs to happen.
Are there any other comments, or can we entertain a motion at this time? And I think if we are going to push a motion forward, it has to be very, very clear about what it is that we're requesting.
Yes, we want to give Dennis a minute to work his magic.
It would also say as part of the site plan discussion, the elevation of the ADU.
Can I do that now?
Yeah, the finished floor elevation.
I believe the owner would like to address the board for just a moment.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Should I state my name again, or?
No, that's quite right.
So based on what I overheard during the discussion, we would like to see if we can get a continuance and come again before the ARC to represent what we're doing and try and get it more in line with what you're hoping to see on that property. However, I'm confident in my mind that what we are proposing to do in that section with what is on that street and across from the school is only an enhancement for that part of the neighborhood. With, and I know intent is a, a hard word to wrap into detail, but our intent is to be exactly what you are hoping the neighborhood to look like. There are numerous houses in that area that do not conform, and we are attempting to meet the ARC's criteria. So we would like the continuance, and we'll come back and present again.
Okay, we will do so then, sir.
Thank you.
So in speaking with their agent, June the 5th, 2023 at 5:30 PM is the requested date.
Okay. Can I have a motion, please, for continuance?
I'll move to grant a continuance in case ARC 23-158 for the property located at 4904 North Suwanee Avenue to the June 5th public hearing at 5:30 PM.
I'll second.
All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Commissioners, moving along the agenda, the next item this evening is ARC 23-204 for the property located at 2809 North Central Avenue in the Tampa Heights Historic District. This request is for an addition to the primary structure and for solar panel installation. Before we move into the photo presentation here, I would like to point out that solar panels are typically something that we do review and, if appropriate, approve at staff level. In this case, the panels are being requested in conjunction with the construction, the addition to the structure, and a particular, rack that will be connected to the main house as well. The Tampa Heights Design Guidelines regarding solar collectors states that they should be designed and installed as to not detract from the historic fabric of the building, and that it is permissible to locate them on portions of the building not visible from the street, and not permissible to locate solar collectors so that they will be visible from the street. I need to point out also that there is state legislation that a property owner may not be denied permission to install solar collectors, but that an entity such as this commission may determine the specific location where the solar collectors may be installed, provided that the determination does not impair the effective operation of the solar collectors. And with that, I will move to the photo presentation. So 2809 North Central Avenue is located centrally in the Tampa Heights Historic District. It's shown here in green on the map. The red outline shows the local historic district boundaries, and the blue outline shows the national historic district boundaries. This is the present-day aerial of the property, located along the east side of Central Avenue between Forest Avenue and Gladys Street. This is the historic 1920s Sanborn map showing the location of the property. You will see at that time the property actually went all the way from Michigan Avenue, or what's called Columbus Drive now, to Robles at the north there. This is one of the older buildings in the Tampa Heights Historic District. And it was, in fact, constructed by a member of the Robles family. Moving along, this is the front elevation of the house. So we're looking east from Central Avenue. This is the north side of the building. Looking along the driveway. And you can You can see some of the additions and construction that has happened in the rear of the building that was not original to the house, as you can on the south elevation as well. And then this is a view looking at the rear and the south elevations. And an additional shot of the rear. Can note the open area along the second story and the covering adjacent to the pool area. Just another shot of that area in question. This is the property directly to the north. This is a non-contributing new construction. And the vacant field to the south. It's looking directly across the street. And looking north along Central Avenue. And the view looking south along Central Avenue. And with that, I would like to ask the applicant to come forward at this time and present the request.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to get in front of you and talk about our home. My name is Adam Fritz. I am the co-owner with my wife, Taryn. We have been attempting to try to get solar on our home since 2017. As Elaine alluded to, it's a very old structure. Our energy bills are through the roof. And that's because all the walls don't have any insulation, and the windows are basically essence of what windows could be. So we are always looking for ways to try to make our home more energy efficient. Thank you. Make our home more energy efficient, and we've done that over the years. Anytime we've had an opportunity to add insulation, we've added it. We've done things in the attic and kept moving those pieces down the road. We're attempting to do the solar because we're trying to find that definition of what is visible from the street. We're just going to show you. I don't know if this is.
So the interpretation has changed over the years based on the members that sit on ARC.
Can we get the thing switched over? Sorry for the
Have to
Alma.
push a button. Sorry.
Thank you.
So this is a home a couple blocks away from us. It's on Columbus Avenue. It's on 306 Columbus Drive. And if you walk along the street, you can see the solar panels there. If you get a little closer, the solar panels are in that shot. Here's another image of them. You can clearly see them from the street. And then here's another shot with them on the street. And
So those images are within the historic district, and they're just across the street from Tampa Heights Elementary.
yeah, so what we looked at, though, if you look at from the front elevation, the solar panels are not visible from the front elevation. So what we're trying to do is establish for us, for our home, what visible from the street means. There's other examples that we have of solar panels that are on that front elevation. So this is our existing site. Central Avenue is over here on the side. So I'm going to give you a little site diagram. And how do I make it? Okay. So when we look at our home, we have a very long south exposure. The proportions of the home are such that the south exposure provides a tremendous amount of heat gain on all of this purple. That's the existing home. As you can see, that as you well know, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, so all day long we have plenty of opportunities to try to collect the solar. However, we've been denied in the past because we've had stuff on the side of the house, which has been previously looked at as being visible from the street. On the south edge of our property, we have a very dense foliage, lots of landscape, and so there's many different ways to interpret this, but as you were walking along, you don't really get to see this elevation until further down the road. So
The home is also set 40 feet back from the street, so it's not right up against the street. It does set the precedent for setbacks in these blocks for the historic district along Central Avenue here. And through a number of iterations that we've been through, we're happy to answer questions that you may have about our previous experiences, both with traditional solar panels, as well as solar tiles. We've gone that route too, but here we are one more time.
So the massing of the house has changed over the years, but the main massing of the house is a two-story structure that is this general configuration. On the south and the west is a wraparound porch that originally came around and wrapped into this two-story mass here in the back. Over time, this was infilled and it's now part of the house structure itself. And so what we're asking to do is to continue that language of that same distance. We have an 8-foot wraparound porch that comes out. So taking that plane and adding an addition that's 8 foot wide that comes out from here and then infilling it much like that was done historically in the past. This one-story addition that we'll talk about when it's an existing addition, and we'll show you some images. You saw some images of it. It's a very poor addition and doesn't contribute anything to the house. In fact, it is the bane of my existence because it's 20 degrees hotter in that room than any other place in the house. It's a one-story addition that has no insulation in the roof, and we're constantly trying to fight how to combat this. We've had different air conditions that we've added over the years to try to alleviate some of that pain, but the best solution for us is to try to rebuild this in a way that will eliminate that addition and build it back to a level that is more energy efficient for us. So our interpretation of viewed from the street is that we're trying to keep all of these solar collectors that we're proposing past and behind the edges of the masses of the front elevation. So Central Avenue is over on this side, on the west side. This is our south elevation, and so we're proposing solar panels that are behind all of the masses that you would see from that front elevation. When I say front elevation, the street elevation. The addition that we're proposing, the configuration of that addition is all a product of trying to maximize the efficiency of the solar and collect as much sun as we possibly can without, with only being limited to everything behind our residence. So what we're proposing is an addition here with some solar panels on the second level roof, and then this new addition will kind of walk you through in the elevations, and then a canopy structure that continues out over an existing deck that we can have additional solar panels, again, all behind that front mass elevation. This is a front elevation of our home, and this is what we're proposing for the front elevation of the home. It's not a Where's Waldo thing. They're exactly the same. We're not trying to anything on that front elevation. There is a line here that I just drew just to give you some reference. This is the existing overhang that we have for the wraparound porch. Beyond here is that infill space on the wraparound porch, and this line right here is the proposal of what we're asking to add in the rear of the house. As you can see, it's behind the mass of the front elevation. Let's see, can you see both of them? Okay, this is the existing south elevation right now. The infill, that the wraparound porch comes around here and it infills this one little area, and then the existing two-story mass is here, and then we have that one-story mass that I can't stand here in the back of our home.
It's also the kitchen, so.
Everyone's there all the time, and it's very difficult.
And we're cooking, and it's hot.
So what we're proposing is adding that addition in front of this plane, but keeping it the same distance as the wraparound porch is now, so coming 8 foot out from that plane. So then taking the same angles here, the slopes, And we'll show you, and then going up with this so that this whole plane of the roof will have a southern exposure to collect as much solar as possible. This is just a blow up of this area. This blue line indicates the front mass. So everything that you see here, all the solars that we're proposing, is all behind that mass of that front elevation. This is just the back of our home right now. Here is that one-story addition that's been added on to. Well, what we're proposing to do is take that same slope that comes up to, that is for the wraparound porch right now, have that same slope come up, and then continue up above this addition and get rid of it by covering it with a new roof that we can then use for the solar collectors. Come back to that one. This is our back elevation. So this would be the east elevation. This is the one-story addition that's existing right now, and then what we're proposing is that same angle that you see for the existing roof line for our wraparound porch, shifting it back to 4 feet. So from there to there is 4 feet, coming back out 8 feet, and then matching all of the detailing coming around and letting this one plane go up so that it has they can maximize that opportunity for the southern exposure. On the second level of the home, on the roof, we have a 12-12 pitch here. So we would be proposing putting solar panels on the back side if we can get them to fit. Not visible from the street, and then on the back mass of the property. Along the way, so this is the north elevation. This is existing right now, except the railing has fallen off of this area here on the second level. The house has a history of sleeping porches that have been infilled over time. This is one of the sleeping porches that is left over from this. And so what we're proposing is infilling that area, removing the stairs that really is not good for having teenagers in the future, and infilling these areas here, and then also infilling this from an existing back porch situation so that we can enclose these areas so they're more functional for the home. Unfortunately, our electric panel is outside of the house, and it's very nerve-wracking because anyone could just walk up and just turn off our power. And so by being able to enclose these areas, we can have that be a lot more secure and give us some more space. Then this yellow here is the addition that we're proposing. We have that some north light clear story windows up here on the top. There would be fixed windows. And then you can see that the rack system for the rest of the solar panels coming out over the deck. This is the existing canopy that is part of the north elevation that you're seeing here on this side.
Should I address the comment from about the window?
Yeah, if you want. Yes.
Put that one right there. So we did get there was a comment about potentially adding additional windows in the infill of the addition. But we wanted to go ahead and comment on that up front to say that we're adding the clear stories to add additional light. The additional and infill components also have sliding glass doors for additional light. The home already has 26 3-foot by 6-foot tall windows, so we're not short of glass and natural light in any way, but we are short of closets. And so that infill will be a closet, and so we don't intend to put a window in that infilled area.
We're also short of windows that aren't termite eaten. So hopefully
that's true too.
This is just a blow up of that kind of new elevation. This is the wraparound porch, this is the outside second level porches that we would be infilling, and then this is the existing addition that we would have another small space. We build that wall up around that existing addition to remove it. This is just an overall section. This is the back, cutting through, this is the back cutting through the sliding glass door we're proposing. What you see in the background is the mass viewed from the front. So this is the wraparound porch that's coming around, and this is the infill aspect, and then this is the new addition that we're proposing coming off the structure. The lines the intention was to keep all of the roof lines to match up and allow that slope to continue along on that same perspective. This is just a blow up of that, just cut through the sliding glass door. The addition would have a step down onto a porch and then would continue to step down. This would either be a pier or a stem wall, depending on where the enclosures would be. One of the comments we received is that what were the questions about the enclosure. I can run through those what we would do at each location for each aspect of the plan, but the new addition would have a stem wall that would be solid to keep things out. We already have on the north elevation, there's an existing decorative block that would be remaining on that aspect of the property. This is just a simple rack framing plan of the racks that would be extending out over the deck from the new addition. The solar panels that we're proposing would be this particular size. We would match the framing so that the solar panels would form the rack system and just a roof, but it would not be, our intention would just allow the solar panels to be the sun shading device for the deck that's below it. 4 main columns going up, and then 2 main beams going across, and this would just be a post and beam system where the solar racks would then be in the same plane with that angle of the addition. We're proposing a sliding glass doors and or French doors and we can show you where those are in the addition on the plan. We're still internally fighting about which ones they're going to be.
Two designers in the household means I win out in the end.
Yes.
So
we're working those pieces out.
But we want to make sure that they are impact resistant. That is obviously one of the compliance pieces that we'll have to meet. Resilience is a really important factor for us. Having a house that was originally built in 1873 is one of the original Robles family houses. We've taken great care in restoring it and also making it resilient for the future, including open cell insulation in the attic, roof ties in the attic, and slowly replacing windows just due to the cost. And so, wanting to make sure that we have elements that will have a long lifespan is something that we have come to see as being really important, and seeing that it also fits in with a number of the city's current planning efforts, including its resilience roadmap, the greenhouse gas inventory and recommendations. And so these are some of the items that we're trying to meet as we go through renovations like this in the future.
The shaded areas are the additions that we're proposing. That existing addition is right here. On the first level, this would, right now, we have moved our air conditioning units so that they're in line and behind and screened from the street. So we've slowly started moving everything that was over on this side over to this side, and then made it more in line with the requirements of ARC. So the gray spots would be the additions for the first level, and then on the second level would be that infill of that the porch that's there. This is the location of the sliding glass door. The intention is for it to be opened up and then to be able to step out and get towards the pool. Same way with either the slider or the French door, but they would both be by PGT, a wind guard and impact resistant product that we can make sure that they're consistent with the profile of the windows.
And then the trim work would be the same to match the rest of the trim on the exterior of the house.
I think that's all we have right now. Look forward to talking to you guys in a few more minutes.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and have the staff report.
Thank you. Staff finds this application to be consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines and with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines on sustainability for rehabilitating historic buildings. There is a section on solar technology from that document attached to the staff report. And with that, I have no further comments, and I'm available for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lind. We now open it to public comment, and if you do have comment, please do come forward at this time. Please remember to state your name, spell your name, and your relationship to the project. Thank you. Oh, she hasn't. If you haven't been sworn in yet, we have to get you sworn in. Sorry.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am a Luddite.
You can zoom it in if you like.
Oh, okay.
Just one of the top.
Hello, my name is Mary McCann. I live across the street, not in the greenhouse that you saw. I live in the 1903, another one of the wonderful colonial revival houses. And I am here to support this project. I'm an architectural historian, and I've worked with, probably about 20 different SHPO offices on interpreting the Secretary of Interior standards to get them to do the right thing whenever possible, and yet to keep properties, I work primarily with houses and bridges, current. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm pleased to support it. What I would like to show you is the context. We were worried about the solar panels because so many times we've been down and they've been turned down in the Tampa Heights Historic Districts and the whole visible from the street. But here, the top picture, you'll see I'm walking up North Central Avenue on the sidewalk approaching the house, and that is what you see. Adam referred to the wonderful cover from the vegetation, and that's exactly what it is. Here is the house, so you can see how nicely screened it is. As I proceed north along Central Avenue, I come to the southwest corner of their property, and this is what you see. Now, what to me is dream about this project for both their addition and hiding the solar panels is that the work is recessed behind. You have the advantage of a projected pavilion here. This originally was an open balcony. The house faced Columbus Drive. And then, like my house too, the wrapping veranda was enclosed. So you have this room existing, been there more than 50 years, has value in its own right, as you know. That will be another screen for the addition, and then the roof will be extended. This is such a win-win situation, and we're thrilled to see that panels can finally be done in the neighborhood. I was interested to hear that the legislation now seems to preempt the historic district guidelines for Tampa Heights, and basically you need to put solar panels where they work. And it appears, based on the house that went down on Columbus Drive, that pretty much the solar panels are going to go on where they need to be. Thank you for your consideration. I hope you'll approve the project, panels, and rear addition. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other people in the audience, we'll move on to commissioners asking questions, starting on my left tonight, or this time with Mr. Prokop, if you have any. You may pass the baton if you need more time.
Can you bring up elevations of the rack, of the rear rack system, please?
Yes, I can. Give me 1 second, sir.
Okay, Okay, I guess the question I have, I don't know what it looks like on the right-hand, bottom right-hand side of this new east elevation. What is that? Is that bracing? Is that another shed in another direction? I'm not sure what that is.
This is an existing canopy that's over the existing deck.
Okay, so that's the existing fabric canopy of some kind, right? It's a,
Not historic, it was an addition, but it's existing.
It's right there.
Yeah.
okay. I can't figure out what that is doing, but I guess I'll take the word for it on the section that it's going in that direction, it's that scale and it's that height.
I wouldn't lie to you.
The new rack shed roof structure, what is that? What is it made of? Do we have any details of it?
So the roof itself is going to be it's going to match existing. It's going to be black shingles.
I'm looking at the rack.
I know, I got to tell you, I got to get there.
Okay.
So that plane and that angle from attached to that that edge and that soffit, fascia I should say, is a rack system that's just of the framing of wood. It's painted white wood. I'm looking for it.
This one?
Yes. So.
Yeah, I saw that, but what's that's just a
Wood.
exposed wood framing?
That's correct, yes.
Okay,
Painted white, like the rest of the trim on the house.
Okay.
And columns.
all right.
The members would be spaced per the solar panels.
And I'm gonna get this, on the north elevation, can we see the north elevation again?
Yes. Sorry, we have too many pieces of paper.
Nope.
South.
South.
It was the one where you had the infill green and blue shading, I believe.
You are correct.
There's a zoom in.
And
We'll put
get
this
to
up
the
for
zoom
now,
up
but there's
so
a
we
zoom.
can
Okay.
We'll
get
find
to
that.
it.
What I'm a little concerned of is that the addition, I guess, just below where it says fixed window, not the new solar addition, but the little infill addition for closets, basically.
Yeah,
You talking
where
about these areas?
the old sleeping porch area.
Right.
Yeah.
What that is doing is covering up existing fabric.
That's what the existing is.
That's an 1876 existing porch, windows, facade.
So that part was probably sometime between 1906 and 1920, to our
So
best knowledge.
that entire rear end?
Yeah, so, yes.
Okay.
So,
There's
yeah.
been a few additions and modifications. This is a shower that pushes out through here. This window is different from the rest of the windows on the building.
So
Okay.
at some point, that was
And then this is,
done a lot later, because it's sized slightly off of
Do
all
you
the
have
other
images
windows.
of that? Because that's one thing we haven't seen is
Yeah, a
that part
photograph
of
of that
the
back porch.
existing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Want to zoom in? Want to
That-
zoom in on your picture a little more?
I think it's,
Okay.
I don't know. You tell
There
me
you
what
go.
you guys like to say. I can,
That's good. Your phone just turned off.
Put it on never.
But that is I guess the porch looks like, historic fabric and exposed rafters and columns and beams and,
yeah, as you can see the in this existing aspect. The roof was modified to add that little piece onto it.
Well, that's pretty common. That's a common thing to do when you get to a porch, is to change the angle. The lower porches change the angle of the roof too.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a common porch, but like I said, it's original or historic fabric. I won't say original historic fabric. It's
Yeah.
historic fabric.
It's definitely been modified.
Right.
Like Adam said, that's, the upstairs bathroom is now located in that spot, and the two narrow windows that you see are plexiglass. They were changed out sometime in the 70s to 90s
Okay.
when that was done. So, yeah, so I mean, there's definitely been modification to that.
Okay. All
The
right.
columns that are holding the porch portion are different than the columns on the rest of the house too, like around the front porch.
Right.
So the column language is different there.
And that's very commonly done too. As
Could be.
an addition is put on, later years, they
Yeah.
just use a different vocabulary. In fact, we encourage that, that's actually desirable, so you can see, this was original, this was
Yep.
added on later, this was added on later. I've seen houses that had 4 different additions and they had 4 different vocabularies of that kind of thing.
Yes, we do want to be careful that we don't end up with a camel.
With a camel,
Yeah.
You
define,
you describe what a camel is.
yeah,
Yeah,
A camel is something that's designed by committee. Someone
Or
brings in
you have so many different pieces that the languages don't necessarily all work together. It gets a little muddy because there's
but.
too many elements.
But the older the house is and the more modifications that are
Sure.
made, the more that's going to be the case.
It can be, yeah.
All right, those are really my main concerns. No, and I have no more questions right now, let's just put it that way.
Thank you, sir.
Do you have an approximate date on this, on the hated kitchen? In terms of, you have this kitchen at the back
Yeah.
with a flat roof, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And no insulation. And do you have any idea approximately when that was built?
We have a pretty good idea based on the decor when we moved in. I think it's pretty solidly in the early 80s and late 70s.
Okay, well, that's definitely outside then the dates for this district. And you're gonna tear that down. You present it as being wrapped, but you're really going to remove it and then,
Yeah, the intention is we could put another roof on that area. We could try to redo it and bring it all. But we're really also trying to design it so that it's solving 2 problems. One, we need to increase the amount of exposure to the south facade that we can add to it. So that, the intention is then to put that frame up and have that sloped roof going up, and then the additions would then be the plan is to build it around it, and then remove the
interior walls.
inside. So we can control the new construction on the perimeter of the addition, and then take that addition off when it comes to that point.
okay. All
The-
right, that seems not entirely unreasonable. And we do not permit here, so
Yes.
we're really looking at other things. And did you ever think of making your fixed windows at the high end openable so that you could get some better ventilation in there?
The way that the circulate and the stack effect is gonna work, that would make a lot of sense. And if that's an available option to us, then we would consider it for sure.
And the situation with, so on the former sleeping porch, which is between 1906 and 1920, there is now there's a shower up there, right?
Yeah.
And there are some plexiglass windows.
Yes.
And what about the the siding in that area? What is that?
It's all wood siding. All the siding, 90% of it is all the same profile. The addition has some different language to it, but it's got the same width.
Similar.
Mhm.
But all wood, everything is wood right now.
Okay. All right. No further questions.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Taylor?
You mentioned the foundation was going to be a solid foundation. Did I hear you correctly on that, on the rear addition?
We're still working on with my structural engineer, but the intention would be we have to enclose that somehow. It's either going to be pier construction with, or it's going to be a stem wall that we're going to build up from.
The reason I ask is because clearly in this elevation here, we're seeing pier.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that infill, it's all pretty much existing. It would be just infilling the frame here for the small addition there on the first level. But this is pier right now for the existing addition. When we come back, we can make this pier, or we could make it a stem wall, depending on what we're trying to do. It's all underneath the deck right now. We have a lot of rodent issues, so trying to enclose those areas as best as we can. All of it,
So while you have this,
all of it is underneath a proposed deck. That's a deck existing. This would come out to an existing deck, and then we're proposing new monumental stairs stepping down to the plaza.
so while you have this up, this is going back to, I believe, Mr. Meyer's question. The walls that I'm seeing here on the perimeter of the existing addition, you're proposing to tear those down and rebuild.
Yes.
Okay.
Where's this first section?
Yeah, the condition of most of those walls, especially the south-facing wall, they're really deteriorated. They're not.
The piers are in bad
The
bad
piers
condition.
are in
on
bad
that,
condition on those
addition.
as well. The addition was just not done well. It hasn't had the longevity that the rest of the house has had, so it's,
And this was the part you referred to as being built in the late 70s, 80s?
yeah, that's correct.
That's this piece right here.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question is actually referring to, I believe, the picture that was brought up by your neighbor.
Okay.
Picture of our house or of the other house?
It was of your house, yeah.
You did.
It's in this.
It's,
There it is.
my apologies. Which one would you like to see? This one or the?
Actually, the top one. So explain to me what I'm looking at here. The kitchen addition, I'm not able to see in this picture is,
No.
You really can't see the kitchen addition walking from the street. It's,
That's the second floor.
yeah, that, yeah.
This is the
You see,
second floor.
that's the.
okay.
That's the edge of the second floor mass of the existing home.
That's this.
Okay, so then slide it up just so I can get my bearings.
That's this.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get it in the picture? Yeah. That's what you're seeing right there.
Okay.
Yeah, just to refer you back to the site plan.
Do you have imagery?
That shot is way back here. It's actually right here, looking this way.
Do you have imagery of your full lot on that side so we can understand? Because that was gonna be one of my questions anyways, is what is that buffer, what is that buffer area really like? I mean, from the images, from the imagery we just saw, it looked like bougainvillea, but really trying to understand what it,
Yeah.
the height,
20-foot thick
the
of bougainvillea.
thickness.
Some of it.
There's bougainvillea, there's palms, and there's
These are oak trees
like a
along here.
short palm.
Elaine has that site plan has the aerial,
The aerial's probably the best place to see it.
but I have.
It's a very thick edge. And the open field that's next to it is the Buffalo Soldier Field.
So that is walking along Central. This is if you go further away from the residence, you can see that's the foliage there.
And that's your house on the right.
Yes, on the, yeah. So
Somewhere back
all-
there.
Behind all of that.
Behind all of that.
Is, yes.
And that's, the majority of that is on our property. Of the,
Yeah,
It's from the field. That might help them. I'm in the field.
that is from the field.
looking toward our house. So
but-
that's standing in Buffalo Soldier Field,
Right, not the street, but the field.
but the field.
The original front yard.
And this is,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. This is the view from Central Avenue. You can see that's the foliage that we're referring
Foliage.
to. Am I saying wrong?
Yeah.
The trees and things, the landscape, the landscape edge. It is a mismatched collection of oak trees, palm trees, lots of bougainvillea, and a mixture of other things. And it ranges in height from 20 feet to 10 feet in some areas and 30 feet in
Most of
others.
it's pretty tall.
Depending, yeah, where the oak trees are,
Yeah.
so it's taller.
So I've got, I think, two more questions, and one is referring to the addition where there's no windows. I get the rationale, but has there been any design looked at trying to figure out how to get some form of window into that?
Sorry, what was your
So
question?
the clear stories were our solution to including some additional windows on that facade. I mean, there's a lot of windows already on that facade of the house, in every facade of the house. So, I mean, that was part of it. And we don't, the part of that closet we're hoping will also be a laundry room, because we don't currently have one. Washer and dryer is actually in one of the bedroom closets right now. So,
The design concept for this home is really to try to open up to the open space of the site. So what we're doing with the addition and the openings that we have is really to get not only a visual open, but a physical opening up until to this aspect of the site, because this is the nicest area of the property. So that concept of opening up to the site to the south is what we're trying to reiterate with some of our moves that we're doing.
so that enclosure where we're proposing to put the closet and laundry room is up against the back edge of our driveway near the detached garage, and
This is our driveway here.
yeah.
And it's also close to our neighbors, so we're also trying to give them some privacy.
So my only other question would just be based really on the design of this addition. Were there any other options looked at that were a little more in line with keeping with the type of architecture that's currently there?
I think
So we really wanted to make sure that, one, we were respectful of the architecture that's there, but also not mimicking or trying to make it look like it was part of the historic house, since it is an addition. And it's a delicate kind of balance, and I think that in terms of our design philosophy about that, that's really how we've always approached historic preservation. We've both worked with historic preservation firms for a long time, so, that was just the philosophy that we took. In terms of design iterations, there's been many, but this is really the one I think we feel like accomplishes everything as much as we can, especially being able to address the solar panel issue, because ultimately that was the issue that we started with. We were here in 2017. We couldn't make it happen then, and so we went the route of contracting for a complete solar roof. Turns out some companies don't know how to work with historic structures. These have all been really long processes that we've gone through with the city, that we've gone through with permitting, that we've gone through with ARC multiple times. And so this was our best attempt at being able to accomplish all of these things, but especially ensuring that we could finally achieve having solar panels on the home.
Okay.
in the language that we're trying to make sure that we're building off from is the wraparound porch and the concept of the infill and taking the context clues from the slopes of the existing and allowing them to be part of that same language that we're moving around the house with.
That's all I have.
Mr. Sutton?
If you want to say this, the front mass of this house is remarkable. It's still standing after all these years. And when
pray
you
every
start
day.
moving back, that's when you get all your little foibles and problems. Things have changed over time that we don't know, like that part of the wraparound porch that got infilled. That sleeping porch on the second floor with a stair. I suspect at one time the stair was never there. And then it was probably provided as an access for a border. They took the back half of the second floor, this is the, border rental sort of thing, separate entrance. So that made all that change. And of course, your beloved kitchen, these bits and pieces come through. You are proposing an envelope that's going to basically solve all these sins. Do you have sections fleshed out of how this is actually going to come together? Not schematic, but real construction grade sections.
I don't have any of those additional with me, but I have a construction drawing document sets begun. So that made sure that we were fitting things in the right context, and it was, I have it modeled.
It's
but
modeled in Revit.
It's not,
Do you have that with you?
I do.
Because that'd be very interesting to take a look at, see how these pieces match, well, not necessarily match, but dovetail into what's existing. Because what you're proposing is something entirely different from the main body of the house, which, with my Commissioner Prokop, would agree is a marvelous example of something similar but yet distinctly different from the old, from the new. And I think that
Of
that
its
has the
time.
potential of working.
Yes, of its time.
Okay, so we don't have the details there, because I wanted to talk about the nature of your foundation work for your addition. Right now, you're thinking of a stem wall, correct?
We haven't got that far. I gotta.
Well,
but
that's why a
yes.
section like this would be important to have that as a discussion, because the rest of the building, is it not on piers?
Yes.
With a crawl space?
It is piers with crawl space.
You might want to think that,
I'll be happy to
that
put
would-
piers
that
with
would
crawl
be
space if that's what you
consistent.
guys want. I really, we haven't got to that point of what's most cost effective, but for us,
Well, you have the whole access, the whole ventilation issue, you don't want to block your ventilation to
Well,
existing building.
understood, except we were putting monumental stairs in front of that, so,
Well, that's the next item I want to talk about. What kind of, are we looking here at the details for your new deck work?
Yeah. That would be new deck work. So the platform coming out and the stairs going down is deck work.
So that's all going to be a wood deck, essentially.
It's gonna be a wood structure with a wear deck, synthetic deck, as the finish.
That essentially, that's, an open lattice type structure, so even that is ventilated too.
Can be, yes.
Have you been able to unearth any historical record, if you will, a cavalcade of historic photographs of this house?
We have a
Copy of the will.
we have a copy of the Robles will.
Oh, yeah?
We have
Yeah,
a
it's pretty-
copy
that's
of
pretty cool.
deeding the Buffalo Soldier Field
Field
to the city of Tampa in perpetuity.
Which was somehow traded in a land swap later on, but there's no record to show what happened. Maybe Dennis could pull that.
That would be fun.
So
as far as
there's-
photos,
it's like really
Nothing.
old photographs, we have not been able to find any. We've checked with the History Center, we've checked with a few different places. So like, the oldest ones that we have kind of go back to about like the 50s, I think.
One was in the Parade magazine, or that.
Yeah,
that
there's a
magazine.
few kind of, there's like one old sketch of it that we have. What was that, from the 40s, maybe? We're happy to share anything that anybody wants to see.
I was just wondering
The
what's
will is
happening.
pretty fun.
Yeah, I've been involved with a number of older buildings, you know,
You-
WPA post office, and in the basement, yes, the construction photographs are still there. You know, things of that nature. Older house, attic, boxes and boxes of photographs from a variety of different owners. They never left. So I'm just wondering if you had anything like that here.
We found old checks. We found, there's been a lot of old stuff up there. There haven't been a lot of photographs of the house. We've had people who previously lived in it stop by and
Talk to us about it.
talk to us about when they were there. It was owned by the same family for a very long time, but we just, we haven't found, necessarily a lot. We've dug up a lot of old
A lot of glass.
apothecary bottles in the yard.
Ton of
I can
glass.
see that. Just as a general point of reference for us, you look at the front of the house, it has a certain box mass to it. And that porch wraps around, and it almost completes the box mat at that point, that two-story mass. Do you consider everything on the other side of that line to be, at some point, part of the fabric, not part of the fabric? How are you approaching that philosophically?
In terms of the line of where the historic ends and kind of the new begins? Yeah, that's really where we're proposing most of this addition, is to clean up let's call it the bridge area between the two, because right now it's not done really well. Like the roof kind of leaks in between there. You have all those issues. So we want to be able to bridge it cleanly so that we can protect the historic structure better than what it is right now. But we do see a bit of a delineation in terms of the historic portion moving into a more contemporary element of the house, especially as it, opens up and has that language opening up toward the outdoor use areas. Does that answer that question?
Yes, it does, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, the new south elevation very, very clearly delineates that concept for yourself. Maybe a nice strike line, on the document itself, so
So you
new
can see it.
existing,
Okay.
would help that tremendously. That is all I have for a question right now.
So I would like to start, Elaine, if we could put the Sanborn map up and zoom in on the actual house, if possible.
Can you use a push a button here or anything?
There is a button, but I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
You guys got that right.
Yes, that's why I said Elaine. Staff will help. Thank you, Dennis.
Right here, that's what he wants to.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, this is from the 1929 Sanborn, Elaine?
Yes, for the maps updated through the late 1920s.
Okay. So, in looking at this, this has a cruciform or crucifix shape to the mass, and then an addition potentially on the rear. So I just wanted to look at that, because the notion that it's a box, it is not a box. It is a box with appendages and then an extension. So it's more or less of the greater mass that we see today. Most of that is original and intact. And that goes to some of the questions that have been put forth so far tonight. So going back to your presentation, Adam and Taryn, if we could switch them back, I'm sorry. Thank you. If you could, please. if you would please. Do you have a roof plan? Okay. I wanted to understand,
Pay no attention to this, it's just the.
yeah, I'm
the
not
detail of
even,
the
I'm
regs.
not even looking at that.
Okay.
Actually, if you put next to this, if you could, just slide it over to the left on your thing.
This-
The elevation for the rear, so that's what, the east side, if you could put that up? And maybe fold the paper so we can actually see, of the,
You want the
She wants,
existing?
she wants.
yeah,
the-
if you can fold it, because we want to see the building, I don't care about all the text. That's good where it is. Yeah, that, push it back just a little bit, okay. So, and pull it up just a little bit, the elevation sheet. Because
you
my
wanna see
question
both?
goes to
Okay.
the placement of the new addition. And I have no issue with your shed roof for your solar panels. What I'm not getting is, it looks like the north face of the new addition goes northward about another 2.5, 3 feet in this elevation. But on your roof plan, it doesn't seem to go that far. Am I missing something here? Look at
No.
your
Yep.
gable end.
You're right.
So which is it? Yeah,
Oh, she caught you.
unfortunate. Okay. Is there a reason for that to be pulled out that far?
It's a sheer, well, just go ahead.
So it doesn't, I don't know, do we have an existing floor plan?
Yeah.
So the addition, the existing addition, which is half of the kitchen, doesn't line up with the historic walls. It steps in,
Correct.
and it's weird. So,
Okay, so go back to the plan you just marked on. Pull this away. So rather than align with the historic walls, you've decided to push outward on the north
no,
side.
We're
we're pushing
aligning-
it out to align with the historic wall.
If you,
The addition doesn't currently align with the historic wall.
this addition is smaller, and it stops, and then this is the historic wall edge here.
Okay, go back to the plan that we just looked at then. So the roof line pushes out, but the wall below, the dash line would be where? Can you dash the line
For-
where it
you're
would
talking about-
actually, on your roof plan to the right? You know how you put the purple line in solid?
Mm-hmm.
Where would the line of the walls below be? That's not correct. Is that correct?
That's the intention, is we're lining this up with the existing,
So the elevation is still not correct? Because it needs to align with the wall of the gable end, is that correct? Look at your bottom elevation, your proposed new elevation.
yes. Yes, you're right. That wall should be right here.
That should be there.
That is correct.
Okay, I can buy it now. All right.
Yeah, actually,
No,
that's not right.
that's not right.
Is it?
No.
Because it's lining up with this.
It's lining up with the shower.
No, we're lining up with, oh, great.
And I don't have a problem with it, no,
Well, we'll get into commentary.
Okay.
Okay.
I have to ask these questions.
The intention, Susan, is to line up with the existing wall all the way to this corner to give more space so that we have more functional space inside of the.
Where is the shower on this plan?
The shower, that's the second level, and the shower is right here.
So it is not intended to align with the shower.
No, it's intended to align with the existing wall of the
Okay.
existing home.
And so that elevation needs to be revised to reflect that.
That's correct.
Correct, so the purple line that you struck is the correct location for the outer limits of the wall below the solar panel shed roof,
That's correct.
correct? Okay, all right, I can buy that. Thank you. Do you have a second floor? I would assume the second floor, you talked about need for storage, closets, and a laundry room. Is that a bedroom on the second floor?
It is.
There's two-
There's 3 bedrooms on the second floor.
in the two bedrooms.
Do you have a floor plan of the second floor?
I didn't print that out. It's on my print.
I'm
can-
interested in what the infill actually looks like, so it's,
Okay, so I'll just show you what it is here. There's a bedroom here, and
yeah,
there's a bedroom here, and in between there's a bathroom. The
right,
bathroom comes out to this porch,
yeah,
and there's a door here,
yeah.
and there's a door here. And I can show you the picture of
So what does your infill plan look like? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out, is what
This-
is actually happening?
this existing column, these existing columns. I'll show you, can show you a picture of it. We're just infilling in between those columns, and then turning it back to this wall.
And it becomes a giant closet.
It's a closet for
laundry
one
room.
bedroom, and a closet for another bedroom, and a laundry room. It's not that giant, trust me.
The closet.
I wish it was giant.
We're not gonna have this conversation here, but you should remember how small my house is.
I do.
We have big rooms and no closet.
Yeah. Okay, answer that question. So, for the wall materials, did I understand that you are matching existing siding, trim, roof? Everything's gonna match the existing?
We would like to do, we've been fighting termites for 13 years. We would like to do the addition in hardy board, but to have the same exposure width of the panel for the siding. And the infill, we plan to do wood because it's part of the existing mass with a profile to match.
So at the sleeping porch, you wanna use wood because of where it is. But at the rest, past that invisible line,
Yeah.
hardy.
The siding to, but a profile that's has the same width of exposure.
Okay, was there intent to put any kind of divider board? I don't remember seeing that in the elevations.
Yeah, all the corners would have the same kind of language of,
No, I mean where the existing and the addition would, so if you go back to the elevation, the south elevation, I think it was.
everything dies into an interior
Corner.
interior corner. So we got the side plan.
You
Yeah,
mean that's a
all-
south elevation?
Yeah, all current corners, whether they're inside or outside, have white trim boards.
Okay, I forgot you were doing that in that addition that was popping out.
Yeah, so it'll be an interior corner here, and so there would be trim on that corner.
there'll
Trim
be
on
trim
the,
separation.
similar trim on,
Okay.
on all the corners. And then there would be a trim here to cover that connector too.
So at that joint, at the north side, you'd have a trim board, vertical trim board
Correct, yes.
between that. Is that reflected in that north elevation? I don't remember.
I don't know if you can see it. Do you have it?
Sure.
While you're looking for that, doors and windows, did you provide us with imagery of the
It's right
windows or the doors
You don't see it.
and/or the doors?
Yeah, I just have the doors.
I remember seeing the notation, doors per the district, but do you have a sense of what that might be?
Yes.
Oh, those were the sliders?
Sliders, yeah.
But that elevation you just had up a single, looked like a single man door.
So on the north elevation, we have there's a single door. On the south elevation, there's a triple panel.
Right.
3-panel, and then on the east elevation, there's the double panel.
So is
So we're gonna
the,
use the same,
the single will be of the same system then?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then the windows?
Windows, right now it's just a fixed window.
right now, we
It's
just have.
just
Just the
clear
one
story.
clear story?
There's 3 clear story windows up on that elevation.
Yeah,
And
so
what-
there's the doors, so we're doing all the doors instead of windows.
And what material with the windows?
It's the same PGT language.
Okay.
So all windows right now are trimmed, they're all white and trimmed in white, and all of our doors are black, trimmed in white.
Okay. I think that, oh, hardware and lighting, did we cover that? Do you have lighting outside?
All
would
lighting's gonna be in the
suspect you would.
soffit.
Okay.
So we
And
don't
then
have
hardware?
any lighting fixtures. I don't have hardware.
Okay.
We can put whatever hardware you guys, I mean, the sliders just have,
We'll have black hardware, all, yeah.
I mean, color-wise, it's gonna be black.
Okay. We don't get into color, the ARC. We'd love to, but we don't. Those are it for my
We
questions.
promise it'll look really good.
Any other questions for the applicants?
I would just like to ask a question about the house that you did show us that had these solar panels on it. And I believe that you made the statement that it is a non-contributing house. So it's new.
It's a new house.
So
It's
it's
a
new
new house.
construction.
Yes.
This is just to clarify for anyone who happens to be watching or paying any kind of attention, that your particular case does not grant anybody, does not allow solar panels to be put willy-nilly throughout the district. That this house has some, what I consider to be unfortunate-looking solar panels, but it is it's new construction and it's non-contributing, right? So it's not this is not a blanket for all solar panels. And I will, I'll go into the particulars of your installation a little bit later. I think that you have real potential here to do a wonderful contemporary addition to a very nice Victorian house.
Do you have any questions for the applicant? Sorry,
No.
it's just not
Yeah,
the.
I know. Okay. It's 8:40 or whatever,
No,
7:40?
it's just, this is our time to ask questions, so.
Yeah, well,
have any questions?
I did want to ask them why, I wanted to make sure that it was clear that that was a non-contributing structure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Prokop, any other questions?
Good question.
No, I'm just, I guess I did want you, I mean, you've given us a pretty nice presentation, thank you. And you're well aware of matching versus not matching exact profiles of hardy board versus what was the original wood, and it might be beneficial, you're aware of that, correct? That it might be beneficial to change the exposure on the new addition in the hardy board to distinguish that material from the original.
Yes.
I knew that was your answer.
Yes.
I have no other.
Well, I have a follow-up. Did you consider any other material or delineation
Other than
for the more
siding?
contemporary components that you?
You mean you'd let
would
us build it all in
suggest?
glass and steel?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we've considered a lot of materials, and they didn't seem like they would go through this board, so. None of them were stuck on, just so you know.
None of them were, no.
Okay, Mr. Sutton.
I do have one last question, and it is a material question. I understand solar panels, but what is the roof underneath it?
This shingle, it's an asphalt shingle
It's
roof.
gonna be a shingle roof, not a metal roof, nothing else of that nature. It's gonna be a conventional shingle roof.
It is, there are some solar panels that benefit, they benefit from both sides. And in that case, a metal roof is much better because then you're getting additional solar collecting from the underside of the roof as well. But we're keeping it simple and letting the roof just continue on.
And that shingle roof is basically going to be substantially matching the roof on your existing
The roof on our
dwelling.
house is brand new. It
Is
was just finished after 16 painful months of not having a roof.
Yes. Sorry, this.
So the
Sorry,
match is
it's a
gonna be a
sore
little bit
point.
easier. Okay.
So
That's all
yeah,
I have.
it's brand new, so we'll be able to match it easily.
Thank you very much.
Dennis, can you tell us when the panels were approved, or were they approved on that other house that was referenced?
Just keeping it warm.
Dennis Fernandez, Architects Review and Historic Preservation Manager. I don't recall the exact date, but just as a procedure, we review the installation of solar panels. There's state legislation that requires that we accommodate the placement of solar panels regardless of the contributing or non-contributing status of a building. So our first attempt is to try to place them towards the rear in an area that's not visible, at least from the front of the structure. It's a very difficult task to try to get them to be not visible from a street in our type of urban areas that we're looking at in these neighborhoods. We attempt to place them on accessory buildings if that's an option, and particularly if they're non-contributing accessory buildings. But we have been approving them on both contributing and non-contributing structures in areas that we can accommodate the necessary exposure in the most minimal way to accommodate the legislation.
Any other questions, either for staff or the applicants?
I did, I just remembered, I had one other question for you. You don't have to stand, I'm just, in previous actions, it says in July of 2021 that solar collectors or roof was granted with condition by a vote of 5-0 by this commission. Was those the shingles that you've since found out couldn't really be done, or what was that?
We had a bad experience with Tesla. Loved the look of the roof, loved everything about it. They just couldn't execute. They couldn't execute on a historic home in a.
I'm having the same problem with them on
So
some projects
sadly,
too.
if it's a carbon copy little cookie cutter out in the suburbs, they can do those all day. They had issues with the age of the structure, and they had issues with.
Yeah. All right, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
All right, seeing no one else with a question, you do have 5 minutes for rebuttal. Anything you'd like to add? Please come up and let us know, yes or no, if you want to use your 5 minutes.
Thank you very much for hearing us. We appreciate it, and I really appreciate the conversation with everyone up here.
Yeah, nothing to add.
All right, thank you. Now close the public hearing and discuss the case. One thing I want to note is that it's very hard. I mean, we've all worked in this space, both professionally and privately, and then being on the commission certainly has added to the knowledge we have, but it is very difficult to know the age of any particular component. I mean, that's the gift of Sanborn's, is that they can sort of indicate that there were certain things in place. We can never be certain. So my biggest concern right now is not solar panels. I think you guys have done a great job of executing and trying to figure out the right way to do it. My biggest issue right now is the removal of the sleeping porch. The massing of the primary structure is clear, I think, from the photographs, even the one that was shown on the iPhone. It's a small feature, but it is still a feature. I think it is a defining feature. It can still be seen from the street. The fact that it was open air is a historic element that I think is an important feature for this particular home, especially given its history. Who knows? Who knows who used those stairs and used that sleeping porch? And to see it disappear is, to me, concerning.
I share some of that concern, and I turn that around as well. And I actually find that the proposal to be actually quite a very clever collection of bits and pieces to solve a vexing problem, a number of vexing problems for the homeowner. And I kind of feel for that give and take. We have a beat up sleeping porch versus a new addition. What's happening here? but I'm still taken with the proposal. I really am. And I'm trying to sort it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I brought up the fact that, you know, that existing historic fabric was getting covered up and probably removed. But
It'd be nice if the existing fabric was the interior wall of the closet.
of the closet, and you left it in place, right? You know, if that's possible. We don't do, you know, once we establish an exterior wall, we don't deal with the interior walls, so to speak. But one thing that did concern me throughout the whole presentation is the general rule of anything that you add to an historic property, it be done in such a way that you can remove it in the future. And that's the one thing of that porch that even though it's just being infilled at the posts, then the interior of that's all going to be renovated, and that existing exterior wall is probably not going to still be there.
Well, to make it function, the slope of the decking has to change, so the deck itself is
The
going to be.
floor has to
Exactly.
change, and
And the fact that you remove the
Yep.
entire stair, that's a defining feature, potentially.
yeah.
I get wanting to, you know, learning or having to navigate historic properties and live in modern times and live in such a way that it's comfortable. Unfortunately, you know, a bathroom was added in a very inconsistent manner, which did change the exterior envelope, unfortunately. I don't know how to negotiate this one little thing. The rest of the project I find is right on track, and I feel like it's a great addition to the history of this home.
For me, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. I don't know that I have an issue here at all with the solar panels. I haven't before, and as long as they're used correctly and put in places that we can somewhat hide them. I mean, again, it's 2023, and they're being pushed really hard on us, in the industry, that is. But the design, just even for me, you know, somebody that normally builds things, something's just not, or some things are not working together. I feel like there's some things kind of fighting each other back there. The roof line pulling back's definitely going to help, because to me, I feel like I'm looking, and I'll use this as an example because I've been looking at a lot of homes here recently in Carrollwood, but I feel like I'm looking at a lot of those style homes from the rear.
Monsters.
But from the front, I'm seeing what we would typically find in 1870. And so they've definitely nailed the differentiation.
Yep.
But then part of it seems to be fighting, and maybe it is the enclosure of the sleeping porch, and that's part of it. I do have my own issues with not knowing that kitchen area. I mean, I get the utility side and the insulation, but losing that, the Sanborn, it doesn't look to line up, but
The one-story addition?
yeah.
Oh, I tend to
but
agree
then
that
I-
it's a different era.
It wouldn't have been a flat roof.
I don't think so either, but I don't, you know, it's just hard to say at this point.
Agreed.
I can't
Yeah.
believe that it's part of the original structure or even the original addition. Because it looks like
Yeah.
it may have had two, if not three at this point, but,
Yeah. Well, even I think the Sanborn map showed an addition in a completely different location.
but in some other locations, we are losing some windows, or at least a window.
Yeah.
And some other
Which,
items.
again, I think they did explain that window was not an original window even to the 1920 or
On the sleeping porch, there is another window they took out. It's on the south elevation. They infilled it rather than put another window or door there. It's next to where the sliders are going in the new addition.
Correct.
They took that away and didn't put it back in, which I did mean to ask about, but
Yeah,
I don't think it's really a big,
Yeah.
It's not gonna keep me.
I'll be
from
honest, I
seeing
mean, I know this is one of the oldest houses, you know, in the district, if not the oldest. And it's significant, and it's in wonderful condition, and I think it's currently got some great owners. And I think what they're attempting to do, and they've pushed it back to the rear of the building, they've recessed it from the structure, you know, from the main volume of the house. The sleeping porch is a little troublesome.
That it's already beat up.
It's already beat up, it's already altered, it's already distorted, it's already,
I
you know.
wanna speak to that, the whole idea of beat up. We only saw a few images, there's no report, we didn't ask them if they had a report. I can see the railing is missing
Right,
all the
I
spindles,
understand.
but that doesn't
I
mean
mean,
they're in
beat
bad
up is
repair.
not a really good term, but it's been altered. I think the one window that was facing north is not an original window. The shower that projects in is not original. We never saw a photograph of the stairs. We probably could have figured out how old they were.
I'm gonna bet the stairs aren't original either.
Right, with a photograph, right, because the stairs wouldn't have gone to that porch. The porch would have been accessible from the second floor only, more than
Only.
likely, right?
Not
Well,
necessarily.
beat up doesn't necessitate tear down.
No, I'm saying,
And-
beat
and
up
if
is the
it-
wrong word. We shouldn't use the word beat up.
Because if it
in our
did,
discussion.
unfortunately, we'd lose a lot of properties.
Right, I think on the whole of the package, that one porch is not enough to counteract all the other good things that are going on.
Well, I do think there are a couple other things that we should talk about. I feel like, to quote one of the homeowners, that there is to them in their mind, and it was answering a question that you brought up, you know, when you start to look at the mass of the home, is there a defining line where you can fix and say, this is existing, and then I'm allowed to build beyond this? And that there was this distinct line that one could move from the historic to the contemporary and allow it to be that. I personally feel like in this specific case, the materials are wrong. The materials are wrong. The language is all very contemporary language. And if you're gonna go there, then go there. We have these discussions all the time. And there are very rare instances where I feel like it's moving in that direction, but this is one of those. And other than the sleeping porch, which I am still gonna hold to, I feel like the materials are wrong choices. In my opinion.
They're too similar.
And this may be part of the struggle of, there's something not jiving here
think that is a
that
lot
you
of it.
yourself are having. If it's going to be different, let it be different, and then you own it. And that means what your doors look like, what your windows look like, you know, all your fenestrations have a language that says, I am different, we belong to this era, you can take us away and not diminish the historic components. And just let it be. Because it's really, in my mind, from an architectural perspective, is really disjointed.
It's really,
Disjointed in terms of material
right,
choice.
because the geometry of the addition don't match, the historic materials to match the old historic house put on this new modern geometry
Doesn't work
don't seem to work,
for me. They
Okay.
they just don't mesh.
okay?
Yeah. And I find the geometries of the suggested addition fine. For me,
Right.
they flow.
Right.
The fact that the slopes are similar and alignments with certain walls are there, it's material choice for me.
Yeah.
To sort of make it
Okay.
finally come together.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear that, I see that.
I would also like to weigh in on the issue about the sleeping porch. We have some deteriorated fabric, right?
Go ahead.
We have some deteriorated fabric that would need to be replaced or repaired. And certain portions of that fabric may be salvageable to reuse at a future date if they wish to return it back to that historical conformation, right? In other words, if somebody wanted to put the sleeping porch back, would it not be acceptable for them to, for example, put the siding in their garage and say, I have kept this siding in order that if I want to turn this back into a sleeping porch, we could do so.
Mr. Historian? I mean, in my experience, is you keep it in place.
I know we're all pack rats in one form or another, but the longevity of that as a solution, I think, is problematic.
And I think that,
I think they've tried to achieve that by saying they're gonna build in or within the columns.
Right, and leave the existing framing there and just infill between the columns.
But unfortunately, there's some other portions of this that aren't being saved because the wall is now taking place of the railing and some other things. I mean, to me, because of, and this has nothing to do with this, but I mean, when I start thinking about this and what this is becoming, I start thinking even like, structural reports and what's gonna be housed here, and it was a porch, there's really no weight there, so was it designed for this? And is that
especially hearing that a washer and dryer may go there, so.
is this going to create more problems down the road that obviously don't come up here typically, but in my mind, as a builder, there's the things that I think about, because again, there's no weight out there right now. There never has been.
They probably have to reframe or pour a thin deck or something
Something,
like that to level it out.
which, may or may not affect any looks, but it could. Who knows?
Well, I have to admit that I offered that solution as a possible way for us to see our way clear to allow the demise of the sleeping porch.
To have the sleeping porch framing, decking, and siding stored.
Because
I just don't think that's very tenable.
I think
don't think
somebody
that's a
could.
reality
Yeah, I think
in
people.
our world.
Yeah, somebody says they'll do that, but I mean, how does
You can't enforce
you can't
it,
enforce that
and
at all.
even if you could, the materials, they have to be stored in a particular way.
And they deteriorate. I mean, termites will be all in on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would rather see them be used, if they were not used here, maybe they're used at another location, or maybe there's an opportunity or something. But I mean, there again, that's a whole nother conversation.
I just think it's gonna also change the mass and the way that this building looks from that elevation.
Well, it's definitely gonna change the mass.
Well, it will change it, because right now, it's, remember the crucifix
Correct.
form? You fill that in, this part of the northern part of the crucifix is gone.
Correct.
And then the other thing, and you kind of hinted at it before, once we allow the exterior wall, building envelope to move out, they can change anything within that. So all those interior features, and one of you, either Mr. Prokop or Mr. Taylor stated it, they have the ability to then go in and take those walls down, reconfigure, they're going to, more than likely.
Well, they
So
said
then
they-
there's no way to bring it back.
Yeah, they said they were taking them down.
So you can do whatever you want these days to figure that out. And it's only wood framing, that's not that hard.
It's wood framing on a pier system that, with ledger boards, yeah,
It's not that hard.
that's simple. So, yeah, believe me, I've seen
Many
it.
of us have drawn those drawings.
So, yeah, again, the materials, I think maybe is what is drawing my eyes going cross-eyed at this point.
It's not
I'm
that
leaning-
it's too similar, it's the copy-paste on an entirely foreign geometry.
Language. It's not just geometry, it's language. It's a different architectural language.
Well, Yeah, I mean, you go past these solar fields, you know, and I envision that just with 3 walls. And that's kind of what I'm,
But I think they have the opportunity here to make a really pretty jewel box of a solar field.
they have an opportunity, yeah, for sure.
Mr.
I mean,
Fernandez, the chair recognizes.
Good evening, Commissioners. In speaking with the applicants, they do have some time constraints with some of the solar materials. They're requesting, and I think it can be accommodated, somewhat of a partial approval that would approve the solar and concept and placement, and then they would come back, continuing the remainder of the case to deal with the exterior cladding material of the additions and the sleeping porch. So if that's acceptable to the board, we can handle the solar approval at staff, and then we would continue the remainder of the case until June the 7th for them to consider some options in correlation with your discussion.
So how would we frame that? Do we do a separate motion for the solar panel?
I would recommend to do a motion to continue with the condition that the solar be approved as presented by the staff, if that's.
Is that
So-
amenable?
so can I ask a question at this point?
Yeah, we haven't closed anything.
Okay.
Well, no, actually, we need to reopen it, right? No. No? Okay, go
Because
ahead.
it's good, because it's pointed towards staff, but if they go this route, it potentially could change the dimensions of the roof system itself because of the sleeping porch. And I see him nod or shaking his head, so.
I didn't think
They
the
don't have
sleeping
any
porch
solar
was,
panels
yeah.
on the sleeping porch roof. It
Okay,
sheds
no,
the other way.
oh, that's right, it does,
Yeah.
okay,
Beyond
okay. I'm just making sure, okay, so they're separate,
Yeah, it's totally independent.
yeah.
Okay. Can we entertain a motion then at this time? Or do we have anything else we need to hear? Are we good?
I just wanted to ensure that the photos that were submitted digitally in the presentation by the parties, that they would be submitted to the staff for our records.
Let's make sure that gets added into the motion. So the motion is a continuation to June 7th with a note that the solar panel design can move forward as presented tonight, and that all imagery that was added in during the presentation be added into the record.
You got it? No, I lost track.
Anyone? June 7th.
June 7th at 5:30.
Mr. Simon.
Let me take a crack at this. I move the grant of continuance in case ARC 23-204 for the property located at 2809 North Central Ave in the Tampa Heights Historic District to the June 7th public hearing at 5:30 PM at this location, with the provision that, one, that the solar panels be coordinated with staff. Am I missing an item?
The solar panel design
Oh.
move forward as discussed tonight, and
And that all photographs presented in this presentation today be submitted to staff to file.
one second.
I'll second.
All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so. Aye.
Aye.
Approved. See you next month. Right? Yeah, see you next month. We'll move on to the board or commission elections. Once I get this all straightened out.
You have a motion to receive
I think why don't we go ahead and make that?
the motion to receive and file submitted documents and exhibits.
So we do need a separate motion for all items received during tonight's hearing. A motion for that, please? Mr. Myers?
I move that all file submitted documents and exhibits provided in this evening's hearings be received by staff for file.
I'll second.
All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Motion carries. That done. Switching again.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. In accordance with your rules of procedure, it is time for the annual election of officers. We normally handle that beginning first with a nomination for the chairperson, and then if we receive the nomination, I'll ask if that individual agrees to serve in that capacity for the next year. And if they do, we'll take other nominations in the same fashion, and then a vote with the majority individual holding that position. So you can move forward with your existing chair, or you can select a new individual for the position. So I'll open the floor for nominations of the chairperson.
I'll nominate Commissioner Clausmith as the chairman or chairwoman.
And do you agree to serve in that capacity?
I am more than willing to serve again this year,
Thank
in
you.
the coming year.
Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, by show of hands, if you could vote in support of that nomination.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the next nomination that we'll be seeking is for the vice chairperson. Do we have any nominations for the vice chairperson?
I would like to nominate Mr. Brent Taylor.
We have a nomination for Commissioner Taylor. Do you agree to serve in that capacity, sir?
I will.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, if we could have another vote by a show of hands in support of that nomination.
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Congratulations. And so
Yes.
for the next year, we appreciate you serving in that capacity.
Thank you. And
Thank
I
you.
believe we're adjourned,
And we are
right?
adjourned.
Thank you all. See you next Friday.